Hello everybody, welcome to Learning Biology 15.2 Part 3. Alright, so as you can see, to start this section, we are on book page 4. Okay, because this is a very basic and important part before we start the section today. Okay, so just a very brief revision of this diagram. Okay, so turn to your book page 4. First of all, there is a stimulus. 咁會有一個刺激啦。They will be detected by our receptor. So for example, our eye is the receptor of light, right? And then this receptor will generate, 佢會產生一啲嘅, they will generate the nerve impulse and then send them to the coordinator. So in the last section, we've learned one coordinator that will be our brain. And the brain is a part of this nervous system, 神經系統啦. And the part of brain we learn is called the cerebrum. Okay, 係個大腦嚟嘅. And then this cerebrum will help us analyze, will help us give decision, 去 make decision. And then send nerve impulse again to the effector, 去俾一個反應啦. Effect 係解反應啊嘛，係解影響. Alright, and this effector will eventually, 最後啦, they will produce responses. Okay, so please go back to your book page 12 and then this page. Okay, and somehow we're going through this process again, but this time we're focusing on our eyeballs. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, look at the words first and then we'll look at the diagram later. The light, everything has light. Okay, so they're coming from the object. Any object, objects are 物件啦. The lights are refracted and focused onto the retina. Again, this phrase. And because of three different structures, one of them is the cornea, and then the lens, and then there are two humors. One of them is called the aqueous humor, the other is called the vitreous humor. Okay? And then it's quite important to remember this. Cornea carries out most of the refraction. Okay? And then the lens carries most of the rest of the refraction. So it says that it's for fine focusing. So for like data, cornea carries out like 90% of the refraction and the lens carries out the remaining 10%. Okay? So therefore it's related to the fine focusing. 係好仔細嘅一個聚焦啦. Alright? So now the light is focused and refracted on the retina. And then what is happening? So there is a real and inverted image. Inverted 係代表倒置咗嘅，倒轉咗嘅. Alright, so it's like upside down image is formed. And then, like on the retina, this green area, if you look at the diagram above, and then on the retina, there are the photoreceptors. So the two types of photoreceptors are the rod cell and cone cell, right? And then they will be stimulated, they will generate nerve impulse, and they will send the nerve impulse along the optic nerve to the visual center of the cerebrum. Okay, so just another new word called the visual center. 自己讀讀啦. Visual is related to the sight, 係同我哋個視覺有相關嘅. So as you can see, Chinese 係視覺中心啦. So it is, there are different centers in the cerebrum. Alright, so after it is sent to the coordinator, the cerebrum, it will be interpreted. 會幫我哋去分析啦, the nerve impulse, and then the image produced, 產生出嚟嘅 image will become an upright image. That means it is no longer inverted. Okay, 唔會再倒轉咗㗎啦. So very quickly, the light refracted, focused onto the retina. And then real image, inverted image. And then on this retina, there are some photoreceptors. They are stimulated, they generate nerve impulse, they send the nerve impulse through the optic nerve all the way to the visual center of the cerebrum. Okay? And lastly, they form an upright image. That's all for this part. Okay? So, and then the next one, we're going to talk details about the photoreceptors. Okay? So talking about the photoreceptors, again, there are two types. One of them is called the rod cell, and then the other one is called the cone cells. Okay, because of their shapes. So we can look at this diagram below, and we can see very clearly. This one is a rod, 係一個柱體嚟嘅。This one is a cone, 係一個錐體嚟嘅。Okay, so and then they would just very similar words, but again we'll keep on using these verbs. Okay, 不斷用緊呢啲嘅動詞㗎啦。Generate nerve impulse, stimulated. Okay, and then the nerve impulse travel along, sent along the nerve, the optic nerve to the brain. Okay, so in the following we're going to compare 去比較啦 the rod cell and cone cell, and it is quite important for the comparison. So rod cell, they are more numerous. That means higher in number, 係多啲嘅. Okay, and then for cone cell, less numerous. For rod cell, they are sensitive to light of low intensity. What does that mean? That means little light or a lot of light. Low intensity, that means little light. Okay, so when there is little light, it is important. Okay, the rod cell functions better. 所以啦，呢啲 rod cell are very important 係 for vision in dim light， 喺一啲嘅暗淡嘅環境嗰度啦 ，is very important. Okay, however, they are only responsible for black and white vision, so they can only produce image which are black and white. All right, and then for cone cell, they are sensitive to light of high intensity. So when there are lots of light, it is sensitive. So it works better in bright light. But then there is a good thing, that is, it can give you colored vision. 可以俾一個有顏色嘅 vision 嘅。Okay, so just check out this diagram. You can see quite clearly. This one is a cone shape, and these one are the rod shape. Okay. So we move on to the next part. Okay, so there are three types of cone cells. 有三種類型嘅 and these three colors, if you study arts, you will know very well, because these three are the, I don't really know the professional word, but they are like the three original colors, 好似三原色咁樣啦。And then the three colors are red, green, and blue. Alright, so we need to know that they are like different cone. Okay, so let's look at this one. So different cone cells are stimulated when there are different colors. Okay, so remember, light is a mixture of colors. Okay, so light is not like white in color, red in color. It's not totally like that. 佢係一個 mixture 嘅，佢係一個混合物嚟嘅。So there is a range of colors. Okay, and then you can see that this is the wavelength. You will know this better if you study physics. Okay, 咁佢就有唔同嘅 wavelength 啦 and then different wavelength of the light will stimulate different cone cells. For example, blue cone cells works better here in this range, and then red cone cells works better in this range. Okay, so different wavelengths of the light. All right. So what about the other colors? The other colors happen because there is a combined stimulation. 一個合併咗嘅 so they are like a multiple stimulation. Alright, multiple stimulation of different types of cone cells. Okay, so if you're interested, you can just look at this chart. And for example, you can see that, oh, how can we see yellow color? It's because the red and green cone cells are working. Alright, so just one more thing I want you to remember. We're talking about the cone cells, not the rod cells, because the cone cells are giving us the colored vision. 係有顏色嘅 vision. Alright? Okay, so and then the last part I would like to talk about is the distribution. 佢哋嘅分佈啦. So they are not distributed evenly. Evenly 代表平均嘅. Okay, so they are not distributed evenly throughout the retina. For example, where are they distributed? Rod cell for black and white vision. They are located on the periphery of the retina. 自己讀一讀呢一隻字 periphery 係代表周邊嘅. And you can find no rod cell on the yellow spots. No. And no on the blind spot. However, for cone cell, they are more concentrated 係好集中嘅咯 ，on the yellow spots, and only a few on the periphery 係得少量嘅啫。Also, would it take place in a blind spot? The answer is no. Okay, so let's look at this diagram very quickly. Yellow spots, you can see a lot of cone cells, no rod cell. For blind spots, no rod cell, no cone cells. We've talked about this earlier. Okay? Last but not least, we're going to focus on the blind spots. So what is a blind spot? That means there is no photoreceptors. Okay? But no photoreceptor, does that mean, first of all, by definition, 定義上嚟講啦, there are no nerve impulse generated and sent. 因為 photoreceptor 係 stimulated 受到刺激先至會 generate nerve impulse 㗎嘛。Since there are no photoreceptors, no nerve impulse will be generated or sent to the brain through the optic nerve, right? Okay, but remember, image will still be formed on the blind spots. 仍然 the image will be formed. Just that image formed cannot stimulate the photoreceptors because there are no photoreceptors. 明唔明白? Alright, so make sure you know this concept. That's all for this video, and I'll talk more in the next one. Alright, so see you in the next video, and bye-bye.